So, if you guys didn't watch, oh, we've got the ghosty back too. If you guys didn't watch this game, um, what to say about it that isn't a spoiler? So there's kind of like four new arrivals from the Shanghai Dragons that we're actually going to be taking a look at. The first of which is, of course, Gregory, who's on Diva, and then we had Damon, who is a last-minute pickup. And Damon's history was that he was on Simplicity, which was a contenders team, or is. They're still in contenders, but now they're without Damon, so they're probably going to be like "Grrr," and fall a little bit off. And then we get Sky, who played primarily Zenyatta, and Sky he renamed himself. He was a support from Miraculous Youngster. And then we also had Fearless, who is the new main tank. So, spoiler alert, two of those people do really well, and two of them do not. Yeah, Damon was on NRG. Or, I thought he was Simplicity. No, you're right. He was NRG. Right. Who was, is it KSF who was on Simplicity? There was somebody from Simplicity who got picked up. And then there's also Ado. So, and then, yeah, it was KSF. Sorry, KSF and whatnot. So, and then there's Ado as well. So, Ado had been known for a little bit, but Ado is still, like, relatively new. And so, yeah, like, Shanghai Dragons is a new team with a lot of new members, and each guy had something new to prove. And then on the side of the fuel, the reason why people thought that the Shanghai Dragons had such a good chance of winning this matchup is A, because Rascal couldn't play. Rascal was in Korea during this point in time. Let me try and fix my green screen. So Rascal was in Korea. So and Rascal is by far the best Genji player on the Dallas Fuel, which left it to AKM and Effect to be the DPS lineup for Fuel. So, like, very good players, of course, but they don't have that like really true Genji carry from Rascal, and having a good Genji is almost. It's not nearly as powerful as having like a really, really good tracer, but it can definitely make a big difference. And then the other reason why, of course, people thought that Dallas Fuel might be able to, or the Shanghai Dragons might win this match over the Dallas Fuel is the fact that they just traded Custa for Umko, and there had been some clips shared that how Custa was, a major factor in their shot calling, kind of acting as the team captain. They're getting Unko, who's more of a Frenchman and whatnot, probably not going to be a primary shot caller for them, as well as OGE, who all kind of, everyone's kind of guessing that OGE is going to become the shot caller of the captain once he comes in, and he's also going to be a main tank specialist. He's not here yet, so we're still going to have the combo of Mickey and Siegel on main tank and off tank. So yeah, they don't have their main tank specialist. They just kind of like fucked their shot caller, and their new shot caller hasn't arrived yet, so they're kind of just working with what they have. And on top of that, Rascal's in Korea, so they're going to be running AKM and Effect. This was the best chance the Shanghai Dragons actually had to win a series. So let's take a look at it. Kai confirmed OG shot calling. Yeah, I watched a stream with OG playing. His English is good. His shot calling is great. Yeah, I watched that same stream, big man, because apparently we watch all the same streams. But yeah, his shot calling is actually fantastic. Okay, but enough of the kind of intro. Let's take a look at the game. This is Junkertown. We're going to be taking a look at Junkertown.
Back, everyone! Stage 3 has just begun, and what a match we got on our hand. Admittingly, our predictions on the desk may or may not have been a little bit wrong, but that's okay, it's the start. It's first
spoilers.
Match of the day. Give us some credit.
If you don't know, because you're about to find out, Junkertown was the fourth map that was played between these teams. No! Hastings OW. Tier 1, 2 months in a row. Thank you so much, my friend. welcome back.
How was stage 2?
Stage 2 went pretty well. I still haven't reviewed the finals, but you know how it goes. You know how it goes. Welcome back, Hastings. Also, going to mute alerts for the duration of the review, as always. Okay. Anyway, yeah. So right now, Dallas Fuel is up 3-0, and this is the fourth map between Fuel and Shanghai Dragons.
I did get to talk to the Dallas Fuel about the recent trades they made, because we have been on the desk questioning it. Why did they trade out Costa for Unco? Obviously,
we just talked about this. I don't really care about her opinion as much as I love her.
Junkertown now.
You saw everybody run, you know, what we kind of called and what people were calling the pirate ship, right? You put on offense, you put Bastion on the payload, you get some shield tanks out.
Yeah, I said that I wasn't going to review a Shanghai Dragons map. So, if you guys watched the stream during Stage 1, the very first time I reviewed the Shanghai Dragons was a game between the Shanghai Dragons and the Florida Mayhem, and I honestly got so angry at how low quality the game of Overwatch between those two teams was that I honestly swore not to watch Shanghai Dragons on stream until they won a series. So yeah, but B, this was Geggery's first game, so I've got to review it. Weren't you going to do the full game? I was going to do the full game, but honestly, it is not worth reviewing the entire game. So, kind of watching the game yesterday, the game between Dallas Fuel and Shanghai Dragons, you don't want me reviewing all 4 games. You don't. And this map will tell you why.
There, and you let him just do
high-level stuff, you know?
Yeah, really in-depth strategy. Well, then you saw teams actually get really good at countering it, right? So then, you know, we started to get away from that. It became more of a...
I'm using the Overwatch League player, which is using like the 10K MLG stream. So no, I actually don't have access to the all-access pass doing it through this method.
You can still run like double sniper on offense.
Can I link a good Reddit post for you to see? No spoilers and a good laugh? Yeah, sure.
We saw a lot of really nice like Hanzo Widowmaker compositions that teams
are
putting really good use.
If you've watched more than like 2 or 3 games of the Overwatch League and Uber is not your favorite caster, I don't know what Overwatch League you're watching, but it's not the same one as me. Uber is next level, above and beyond any other caster in the league.
This is one where you could potentially see some Junkrat come out, which I think if you're Dallas Fuel, you have to kind of tinker with your lineup a little bit, right? Like you have to move some players around.
Oh, that's prophetic.
Yeah, so, well, I wasn't sure if they were going to stick on it, right? Because we haven't seen... Because we joked a little bit with AKM, because AKM has played D.Va in the past. It's like, oh, well, if you wanted to run dive, I guess AKM could play D.Va, and then could play Genji, and he was like, I don't want to play D.Va, but he's going to be playing Roadhog here.
When I suggested that AKM play D.Va, he made an obscene gesture at me, so I don't think that's going to be what's happening here. But it doesn't quite say up the top, but you can see the Dallas Fuel on the defensive side on this map to kick things off. And they don't have a Sombra here, so this composition, or we still see the Orisa involved, effect in that classic Widowmaker forward position where he can get out of trouble.
Yeah, they always work in the same duos because they won't need to practice with their partner and get some sort of chemistry between the two of them. Absolutely. I like Uber, but can't seem to start liking Mr. X. I don't know, Mr. X isn't that bad. Even Semler's gotten a lot better. When he started out, the most frustrating thing about Semler to me was that he didn't know the game well enough to know when to start hyping up a moment. So he'd be like, the Tracer's on the flank, she's looking for a target, she goes for the post bomb, and she misses! And then like it goes back to like normal commentating. It was so annoying. He would always hype at the wrong moments, and it just felt super awkward. You know, he'd miss good plays, and he'd hype just like very standard plays. Semler's casting in the early days drove me fucking crazy. What do you think about Monty? Monty's pretty good. He's solidly middle of the pack, yep. Do you have to be more careful when clothes shopping now to avoid clothes with green? I'm actually going to have to go look through and make sure the sweaters I ordered yesterday didn't have green, because I didn't even think about that. Oh, the difference between men and women in Overwatch League? That was so funny and so creatively cropped. Holy smokes. Thanks for the heads up there, Pavels. The wick is burning. Yep. Absolutely. Oh, I did bump my knob. Bumped my knob. Okay. Anyway, let's gotta let it play until the doors open.
Very easily here.
And I love seeing Effect play Widow. Now, obviously, AKM, a very good Widowmaker. Effect, also one as well. Seagull playing Junkrat, like I mentioned, so you get to see him on one of his signature
3,
heroes.
4,
Looks like Shanghai
5.
offense.
Pause. Okay, let's take a look. So we'll start off with Dallas Fuel because they seem to be running a pretty standard composition. One of the comps that we would at least consider standard. So with the Dallas Fuel here, we have the Orisa and the Roadhog. And if you've watched the stream for any length of time, this usually is going to stream anti-dive. Anti-dive. Now, it can be run with other... Like, this can be run in other compositions, but those compositions are really fringe. And pretty much the only time you're ever going to see Orisa and Roadhog playing together is in sort of an anti-dive composition, or in some really weird hybrid composition if there's also a Bastion on the team, which we'll get to. But this style of composition is a lot rarer. So the Orisa and the Roadhog are really strong frontline, as well as has that really nice halt and hook combo that can take people around cover, just get a guaranteed hook on a squishy, and just the ability for this combination of tanks to get picks as well as just shell out the damage onto really heavy tanks. Like even if they're running Rein Zarya, you should normally win as long as they don't have the chance to stabilize. And against an Orisa or a D.Va, if they dive onto your tank lineup, you should win. And then, so we have the support combo of Mercy and Zenyatta. Mercy's really good because she can damage boost, whether it's, it would probably be Seagull in this specific comp, but we'll get to that in a second. So Harry Hook has really nice continuous healing, which can't be interrupted outside of like a heal ban. And Unko has Discord, has some additional damage with his Orbs of Destruction, as well as really, truly importantly, he also has his Transcendence. So we've got a defensive support from Unko, we've got some nice damage boost from Harry Hook, as well as the utility in the Resurrect. And whenever you see this Mercy Zenyatta combination, the amount of damage that a Mercy Zenyatta pairing can actually assist their team in putting out is pretty fucking absurd. However, you do need to have the Mercy and the Zenyatta combo actually synergize with something. And for that, we have Seagull. Now, we talked yesterday about the merits of having a generalist defense over a specialist defense. And the name of the composition itself implies a specialist defense. So anti-dive implies that we are hard countering dive composition. First off, that's a little bit of a misnomer. It's not a hard counter to dive. It's probably one of the better options against dive, but one of the best ways to counter a good anti-dive is with a better dive. So, first of all, it's not really truly a specialist composition. It's just kind of the name for it. And Seagull here gives us a couple options. First of all, Seagull's trap, if placed onto the tank line, is really going to prevent the enemy dive tanks from actually attacking the tanks themselves because they can get trapped, as well as the concussion grenades from Seagull gives him another form of crowd control that you can use to knock people away from the front line. If there's somebody on the Zenyatta and Harry can only heal him for so long, a concussion mine put in the right place can knock the two of them apart from each other, as well as, and the reason why Seagull is kind of dual purpose here is that his crowd control gives him really good utility against dive, which is it's the reason that Seagull or Junkrat is running anti-dive. But on top of that, Seagull's extremely high damage plus Harry Hook damage boosting him, as well as Unko either discording or just spamming to Orbs of Destruction, will make Gregory's shield last pretty much no time at all. So this is the dual purpose of shield break and crowd control utility for the purpose of countering dive. So whether the Shanghai Dragons run dive here or run pirate ship, it doesn't matter because the combination of Harry Hook, Unko, and Seagull counter both compositions. So I like it so far. And then the only real question mark about what do you run as your second DPS when you're playing anti-dive is McCree or Widow. So there's only really two options. There's McCree and there's Widow. So you run McCree when you don't have open spaces, more like close quarters, and you play a lot closer to your backline here. When you're playing Widow, you try and set up crossfires, you know, just different angles because you can grapple back to your team if you're attacked. And with grapple buffed a couple seasons ago to the 8-second cooldown, Widows can pop up in some of the weirdest locations. They can grapple, like hookshot, a lot more frequently. They can show up on flanks a lot more frequently. And with Giguri forced to protect Sky primarily with that shield, that's going to leave Ado, Damon, and Altering pretty exposed to a flanking Widowmaker. So, especially since this is Junkertown and it's famous for its open sight lines, the anti-dive with the Widowmaker is an absolutely fantastic choice here. Absolutely fantastic choice. Why not Soldier? So Soldier is a lot more vulnerable to dive. You can't threaten people with your flashbang. As well, he's higher burst damage, so has the greater potential to actually secure kills. The higher in burst damage a hero is, the higher the threat of being insta-gibbed is, whereas an opponent is much more easily able to manage continuous damage application. So if somebody peeks, and there's that like headshot flash potential, that's a much higher threat than knowing that he's used his Helix, for example. If I peek, he's only going to be doing me 20 damage per shot. It's a lot easier to gauge. The flash is not a threat. There's no real high ground here that would actually make a Soldier useful. Like high grounds and repositioning constantly with sprint is one of Soldier's strengths. And that kind of assistance would just not be useful from a Soldier. That is why Effect is on the left, Crossfire. Oh, I assume he's on like the water silo. Widows always do that, just for early recon on what the team is running, as well as trying to get a cheeky shot. If Orisa is discorded, does her shield get destroyed quicker as well? No. Okay, and on the side of the Shanghai Dragons, let's get rid of the markings on the Shanghai Dragons team. Okay. On the side of the Shanghai Dragons, we have... so a little bit different. Normally, and excuse me, Boston Uprising has been running a really interesting variant of this composition that I love. So, just so I don't forget, I'm going to draw a line here, and I'm going to write Boston Uprising. Because on Dorado, they ran a composition that I really want to talk about. Uprising. So, first of all, solo healer. And this, so if you've been around the stream for a while, you know that I consider pick comp, P-I-C-K, to be a type of composition. This is kind of like the solo queue composition. When you're running 4 DPS because your team is flaming each other, you're inadvertently running the pick composition. And a pick composition is a composition that tries to avoid team fights by either getting picks or eliminations before the fight has, like an actual team fight has started, or during the regroup phase, so that the opponent actually doesn't have the opportunity to properly regroup and actually take a fight against you. So the idea is that you provide so many different opportunities to attack them and flanks and whatnot, and you have so many different opportunities for each individual to get a kill, whereas Full Dive, for example, Full Dive strength is that 4 people work together to secure a singular kill. And, if a Winston attacks something alone, it's probably not going to work out. If a Genji attacks something alone, it's probably not going to work out. If the D.Va attacks something alone, you're seeing a theme. It's probably not going to work out. But Pick uses a large number of characters that are actually self-sufficient in order to try and get eliminations and just straight up avoid a team fight, which is a completely different way of playing Overwatch, and it's a lot rarer outside of like ranked where people tilt and all pick DPS, but it is a legitimate composition. And this is where we're going to get to Boston Uprising, is that I think Boston Uprising has the best variant of pick comp of any team in the Overwatch League, and they ran it on Dorado to perfection. So what's happening here is basically Altering is going to be sticking with Geguri, Sky, and Fearless. And then Damon and Ado are going to be more or less on the flanks themselves. So this is going to be a 4-man central party with Geggery, Fearless, Sky, and Altering, as well as Ado on the flank as a one-man team, and Damon on a flank as a one-man team. And the reason why you run this kind of like, you know, two flankers, but it's more like 1-1-4, it's really strange. It's kind of like a 1-1-4 comp with Ado. Like, Ado will probably flank right towards like this mega over here. And then Damon, wanting to use the long slight lines, will probably flank left. And the idea is that Ado and Damon each cannot be easily dealt with by a single target of their own. So unless, for example, Effect can kill Damon, then the other ways for them to deal with Damon on attack here is to have substandard positioning or invest more than one person into killing Damon. But if they invest more than one person's worth of resources into killing Damon, then Ado is more free. And Tracer is another character that normally demands more than one character's of effort to actually take out, because Tracer is, again, kind of like a 1v1 specialist. And then while this is all happening, the idea is that the Shanghai Dragons are either trying to get cheeky eliminations using Ado or Damon on kind of like these crossfire flanks and whatnot, while the four-man team of Fearless, Geggery, Sky, and Altering just kind of maintains the payload, makes it moving, and puts as much damage as possible so that people can't really contest the payload itself. And so we'll talk about more about how the Shanghai Dragons actually did do this composition, because they actually did. So if I had been looking at this composition just on paper, this is what I would be expecting. However, the Boston Uprising did this composition different, and I think the Boston Uprising did this composition better, honestly. So the way that the Boston Uprising did it is they had, instead of having Fearless on Roadhog as one of the four-man crew, what Boston ran is they ran a Widowmaker as one of the flankers. Then they ran Orisa, Diva, Bastion, and Mercy. And then, does anybody know what the second flanker was? Let's just, what do you think the second flanker was? What do you think the second flanker was in Boston Uprising's variant of this comp on Dorado? On Dorado, who would you pick to be the second flanker? Most of you getting it right. It was Roadhog. Roadhog was indeed the second flanker that Boston Uprising chose to run. Roadhog. Roadhog was the second flanker. So this is the composition that the Boston Uprising ran, and it fucking worked. They cleared up first and second point of Dorado without ever actually being forced to take a team fight, because either Widow would get a headshot, or Roadhog, especially since the enemy that they were playing against, and I don't even remember who they were going against, but there is no one on a dive composition who can handle a Roadhog 1v1. And you can get away with solo heal in this composition because Mercy's only babysitting like 3 people, not 5. So you don't need a second healer, because Widowmaker is using these flanks and really long sightlines, and Roadhog has his self-heal and self-sustain. This composition is really smart and really strong. So Shanghai Dragons here, a little bit different, because one of the key features I think that the Boston Uprising ran, I think Diva was the big kind of, like the big difference between Boston Uprising comps and Shanghai Dragons comp. So I would have liked to see, instead of Fearless on Hog, I would have liked to have seen Fearless on Orisa and Geggery on Diva. And the reason why is because, in this case, Fearless and Geggery have nothing that can protect Altering, really. There are a lot of frontal pressure, but you don't need this frontal pressure if you already have 2 flankers and your Bastion is providing the main source of damage. So if you had a Diva, if Geggery's shield does end up broken from Mickey, Seagull, and AKM, and Unco, and Harry Hook damage boosting Seagull, which it's gonna break, then they have no defense matrix as kind of like the glue between the shield cooldowns. Or if Dallas Fuel did have a Tracer or something, then Gregory and Fearless and Sky wouldn't be able to be as helpful as just dropping a defense matrix on your Mercy and making sure she doesn't die. So I think having a D.Va here instead of a Mercy would have made the central 4-man crew stronger. So Gregory is a bad D.Va. That is a poor attempt at trolling, my friend. That's bait, and I'm not biting. Gregory's a great D.Va. I think she played fantastic this match. I honestly do. I'm not saying that because she's a woman. I think she played as well or better than anyone could be expected to play when they had the dragons behind them. But that's bait. I ain't biting. What the fuck is this? All I see is a middle-aged man drawing like a crazy person, and it really intrigues me. Dude, it's addicting. Get out now. Get out now. Anyway, that's my artwork for the start of this this composition. So I wanted to go a little bit more in depth because I know this kind of like pick composition or this single heal Bastion double flanker strategy is a little bit lesser known, and I'm probably going to clip this as an explanation just because I think it's really, really fucking cool. Now is a great time to realize how many dicks you just drew on screen. There's quite a few, aren't there? Yeah. Okay. Now that I have overanalyzed this to the fucking tits, let's see how it actually played out. I am 25, yes.
They're going to be going with the pirate ship. So Gregory will be playing Orisa, Sky will be playing the Bastion here.
Okay, let's see. The Dallas Fuel, or if this is going to be an age in which the pirate ship can still sail the high seas.
So shields up, Sky's into position. Unfortunately, we're specking the Bastion, so we can't actually see what Damon and Ado are doing or where they're positioned, but I would assume that they're on the flanks somewhere.
Question. And actually, no, we have not seen Junker.
Do you mean D.Va instead of Hog rather than Mercy? Yes. I would. Yes. I mean swapping out the Hog for D.Va. I'm not sure if I said it wrong, but I definitely meant swapping the Hog for a D.Va.
Town obviously wasn't in stage 2's map field since the minor tweaks to Junkrat, right?
And the shield's gone. You can see they're just like Dallas Fuel is just working on this shield. It's dying pretty quick.
You can't really kind of lob those mines from a distance and kind of dislodge so many people. So maybe a little bit difficult for Dallas to play this on defense.
So shield's broken, Hook comes in, and if you had a D.Va here instead of a Roadhog, you could defense matrix the damage if your Bastion got hooked, but you don't. So the payload pressure is now gone. The 4-man crew that was meant to move the payload is dead, and now your flankers can't do shit because they have the ability to invest the resources into the flankers to either kill them or make them non-factors. That pressure from the central payload is required for the flankers to get their job done. So the really high shield break from Dallas Fuel and Shanghai Dragons not having a D.Va when they had a Roadhog instead is going to cause Sky to get picked really early to no fault of his own.
Well, the payload rolls forward.
I did not mean swap Mercy to D.Va. I meant swap Roadhog to D.Va.
Regardless, Sky eats a hook. He goes down.
Thank you.
AKM,
Thank you for calling that out.
1-for-1 though is effect did fall. So both Roadhogs here are definitely making their marks early on. Hawks now.
Altering does get the res onto Sky, so they're not quite dead yet. And you can see that Fearless is kind of on the flank here with Damon. So this is what I'm talking about, and this is going to be a consistent theme in this match. I said that this was probably going to be 1-4-1, but that was a prediction, and I've actually watched this match before. So unlike my other analysis, which is going to be based off of me just watching it blind, this is going to be a consistent theme, and I want you to watch this Fearless. This composition isn't 1-4-1, it's more like 1-1-1-3. And the fact that Gregory, Sky, and Altering are pretty much the only people on the payload, and Shanghai Dragons basically have 3 sources of flank pressure. Like, this is straight up solo queue. So, when you have only 3 sources of, only 3 people on the payload, and you're going against what should be the focused attention into cleaning up that payload before the flankers could get any value, this is going to really struggle. So we're going to see that Fearless actually doesn't play a lot with his Bastion, which, if they are going to be playing like this, makes the Roadhog pick make more sense in context of 1-1-1-3, not 1-1-4. But the fact that they are running 1-1-3, this is so weak. This is just a weak strategy in general, especially when you're taking in context what Dallas Fuel is running against it.
For all and sundries, AKM and Fearless are trying to sort of battle it out. Sky's brought back to life, though. This could be a problem for
I honestly want to practice in private using the new All Access Pass before I actually use it on stream. So, anyway. Flanking Hog is this Season 3. Oh boy, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Dallas sort of midway through the fight, especially when AKM is otherwise occupied and Unco is otherwise deceived.
And this is the great part about Mercy's utility, is if you're playing defense, the amount of times that you can actually get just an asshole res, so high. Harry Hook's just like, fuck you, nerd.
Seagull trying to
Seagull body blocks the damage to keep Harry Hook alive like a champion.
push forward,
Res comes off.
giving the space to Harry Hook to get that important resurrect on Unco, but now Seagull pays for it with his life.
Yeah, I don't think they expected the res to come in onto Sky, but Altering gets in position. You see a hook come in there from Fearless and affects saving Harry's life. Takes him
save.
out with a big headshot.
It's a big save now. You can see that the Dragons kind of have to back up a little bit more now. Damon does have that infra site active currently. Effect, if I'm not mistaken, does as well. So we can see that Udder was behind. Yeah, Seagull tries to drop it.
Why is the 3-man on the payload weak? Because Dallas Fuel has a shit ton of shield break, and it's putting so much pressure on Geggery to keep Sky and Altering alive. It's not going to happen. It's just straight up not going to happen. They do make a swap, but the only swap they make is Sky onto Zenyatta. So here, they don't really change up their strategy. They just put Sky on Zenyatta. So now we're in really fucking weird compositional territory in the fact that Fearless doesn't actually change his playstyle. Fearless continues playing primarily a flank hog, making the payload once again Geggery, Sky, and Altering. And if you think I'm kidding, I'm not fucking kidding. Watch a double-pocketed Orisa try to manage a payload while 3 people flank. It's nutty.
Been on top. The flank around by the Tracer doesn't really come to fruition.
Fearless plays
No
solo
more
queue this
pirate ship as
entire
well.
match.
Yeah, so the Bastion no good.
Look where Fearless is.
Once you get stopped by it, it's very difficult to get him set back up onto.
You know, on the other hand, like this isn't the worst idea ever. There are certainly worse ideas. It's just strange, man. It's strange. Maybe it would work if it was with a better team, but like even if Fearless did play with Geggery, so even if Fearless did play with Geggery here, the thing is that Dallas Fuel has AKM playing with Mickey and Seagull playing with Mickey, so they're still going to win the war of the front line. So if Shanghai Dragons knows that even with Fearless playing with Geggery, they're not going to win the front line, it's honestly kind of smart that Fearless doesn't play with the front line. The problem is that you still have a front line. So if you did not have the ability to switch compositions, which you do, obviously, because this is Overwatch, then maybe the playstyle would make sense. But a much better playstyle would be heading your asses back to spawn and switching to something different.
Payload, right? So
Ain't no ores in that pirate ship, man.
Otto going on the vault spawn.
So, yep. And here, Damon's not on the flank here. So they've all kind of turtled behind the payload. This kind of like 1-1-3 strategy has suddenly become Deathball, 6-man on the payload.
Next with the air there. Damon does take out Mickey though, so you lose that big shield there for now.
And I think Damon was honestly just trying to use the Orisa shield to kill effect before going back on that flank.
Riptide might turn this one around. It's also backed up by the Transcendence here. Seagull using it for actually a little bit of reconnaissance work early on, and the Zenyatta falls to the Riptide.
Res headshot
Riptide
Riptide, Dallas Fuel's fight.
Damien has a lot of shields. He needs to try and sort of shoot around there. Mickey placing a rather forward barrier, forcing Damien into less than ideal sightlines to get damaged up.
Just what they needed.
So now we'll see Shanghai kind of sticking with that same. Wonder when they'll switch if they have Fearless go back to main tank, Geggery go back to Diva. This is a different look from them. Have not seen this so far. Switching your main tank and off tank.
Right, that is an interesting switch up here. Effect down to 6 health. And at the shot, still finds Geggery despite being very low in health and actually finally gets that healing, so now can be a little bit more aggressive with the peaks, getting the damage in. Geggery down, was brought back to life and then taken down again. It's David though, waiting patiently for Effect to show himself.
Geggery loses Supercharger, David kills Effect, it's not going to matter. This is a reset. It was a reset before Geggery supercharged, so...
He does connect. It might be a wrap around here for the Dragons. Umko might be in deep trouble. The entirety of Shanghai were attempting just to poke and prod on the backside of this building, but now with the infra side, Dallas can see that coming a mile off.
Yeah, and only a minute to go here for Shanghai, so it doesn't work out on this push. You're going to have a lot of ultimates.
Damage boosted concussion mine. Like, did you see that shot? Seagull kind of knew where they were, and he arced a concussion mine completely blind over this building while being damage boosted by Harry Hook, and the concussion mine literally one-shot Ado. Nice knowing you, bud.
Everywhere there as Otto gets taken out. It's going to be a Hook, though, that comes in from Fearless. Takes out Seagull, and you're going to get res right back up there. That Mercy on your side, so not bad for Shanghai. They get back to full strength.
And you can see Otto is...
Oh, he had sights. You're right, chat. Who was that? Harrison Bergeron. You're a thinker, aren't you? You're a thinker. They had sights.
Staying very close to the corpse of Seagull, so they couldn't be brought back quickly. Fearless to wrap around as well. Hook doesn't really find a target there.
Man, if he did that because he had sights and he specifically aimed that arc at the Tracer, that would have been dope as fuck. Actually, give me a second. Just tweet at him and see what he says, if he replies. Tweet 2. Did you specifically aim the concussion mine at Ado on Junkertown based on Effect's infrasight? Thought it was random at first, but it may not have been. I'll just drop that fucker an emoji. Bitches love emojis. Tweet to Seagull. Nice. The giant star is back. Okay, let's keep watching.
Definitely wishful thinking for Fearless. Effect being pressured by Arda right now on the back line, but he's taken down. Unko does a perfect job of keeping his back line safe. AKM, though, not so lucky. Fearless now on shield duty, trying to break them down. A bit of housekeeping for the Roadhog. Ironically, of course. Seagull with a Riptide now. The 12 HP again gets a good idea. Good scouting be done here. Doesn't matter if there's a Transcendence, if it's a low HP target, but no one falls to the Riptide. Fearless moves back now into that healing aura.
Yeah, AKM switches off Roadhog and goes over to Sombra to get back to the action faster. Don't need that second tank here towards the end. Just going to be a bloodbath. All the support ults here used for Shanghai. It's going to be Damon taking out AKM. Gets that.
So this is kind of like, there was a tweet during the game, like right after here, that it was like, 2 pocketed Orissas breaking each other's shields is pretty much the pinnacle of esports. And this like fight between Geggery and Mickey is just so fucking funny. Also, this fight just overall is absurd, so I'm just gonna let this fight play out once, and then we're gonna go back and take a look at it.
Effect, point blank range deals with Fearless. The Roadhog is trying to flank around the back and get some picks. Geggery now with the shield and the healing from Altering was able to hang around for the most part, but now she is knocked airborne. Discord Orb as well. Hard knock life here for the Orisa.
So there's a Mercy and a Zenyatta on both teams pocketing an Orisa.
To sort of hang around. Harry tries to go for the resurrect. He's trying to sneak around the back of the shield. Has to abandon the attempt to bring the player back into the fight. Mickey, another shield. This is now starting to turn into a bit of a grind. Geggery drawn up into the air, and AKM's trying to flank and find Sky, but he's being healed by the Mercy. Now Fearless finds himself a second. No more shields available here for the Dallas Fuel. No, Mickey puts another one down.
Yeah, and you do have Seagull coming back here on Junkrat. As man, this fight has gone on forever. Mickey puts down a supercharger. AKM falls. Shanghai.
They get it done. They got it.
Shanghai won that team fight. I shit you not. Shanghai won that team fight.
Starting to move the payload, and it looks like they should be able to take point A. me.
Exactly. One team brought a hog. Like, there's not much to talk about here, right? Just the only thing that interesting is kind of like how it ended up in this scenario. First of all, Damon got fucked by Effect. So, considering this is Damon's, like, first game after being promoted from contenders, he didn't have, like, a good showing all series, especially on this map. So Effect just destroys Damon again. And I don't know why Seagull detonated his Riptire. Maybe he thought that Giguri didn't have words are hard. Did not have Fortify, but Giguri, sorry, did have Fortify. Tire gets nothing, and Sky used Trance. So it's fine. It's, you know, if they die here, it's going to be really hard to contest. So Trance to keep the front line alive.
Low HP target, but no one falls to the Riptire. Fearless moves back now into that healing aura.
Yeah, AKM switches
Effect kills Ado this time.
off Roadhog.
And Ado had switched on to Junkrat, of course, to try and win a little bit more of the shield war.
Goes over to
But he goes back to Tracer for the overtime. So he was only on Junkrat for a very short period of time.
Sombra to get back to the action faster.
And AKM's onto Sombra instead of Roadhog to try and just get to the payload faster and contribute a little bit.
Don't need that second tank here towards the end.
Fearless still very, very committed to playing solo queue. So Fearless is like, way the fuck back here. And then, yeah, well, just watch Fearless. He's really the key to this fight.
Just going to be a bloodbath. All the
Damon actually does get a kill onto AKM. Finally hit a shot. Congratulations, Damon.
portals here used for Shanghai. It's going to be Damon taking out AKM. Gets that first pick.
Effect point blank range deals with Fearless. The Roadhogger's trying to flank around the back and get some picks. Giguri now with the shield and the healing from all.
So Seagull dies to Damon. Damon finally hits 2 shots that matter, and Fearless is almost respawned.
Was able to hang
Yeah, so Fearless is now back, and it's all on Fearless that actually wins this fight.
around for the most part, but now she is knocked airborne. Discord Orb as well. Hard knock life here for the Arista to sort of hang around. Harry tries to go for the Resurrect. He's trying to sneak around the back of the shield. Has to abandon the attempt to bring the player back into the fight. Mickey, another shield. This is now starting to turn into a bit of a grind. Giguri drawn up into the air, and AKM
Fearless lands the hook on Unko, who doesn't see him until late.
trying to flank and fight.
Bang, gets one.
Sky, but he's being killed by the Mercy. Now Fearless finds himself a second. No more shields available here for the Dallas Fuel. No, Mickey puts another one down.
Yeah, and you do have Seagull coming back here on Junkrat. As man, this fight has gone on forever. Mickey puts down a supercharger AKM.
So at the end of the day, their strat of like 3 people staying on the payload until one of their flankers gets enough value to win, they stuck with it till the end, and it actually finally worked out for them.
That'll be point A here for the Shanghai Dragons.
I mean, have you ever seen a better example of a war of attrition than that?
Yeah, Fearless also
Marisa's
killed
barriers
Effect
in
there.
Front. Mercy's desperately trying to heal not only the Orisa but also the other players. But eventually Dallas Fuel, they kind of run out of...
Now, Fuel does, however, they do get the actual good positioning on streets before Shanghai Dragons can actually pressure them. And this is where this kind of like heavy flanker with strong payload really excels at. Is what the Shanghai Dragons composition, the pick composition here, wants to actually do is to prevent the Dallas Fuel from actually regrouping. So before the team fight has actually started, the flankers want to be kind of like really aggressive, taking angles, denying space, not allowing the Dragons to actually, not allowing the Dallas Fuel to actually take, you know, really nice defensive position. However, just due to the overtime nature of the push, the Dragons didn't have the opportunity to kind of deny this high ground position from the Dallas Fuel. So one of the strengths of Shanghai's composition gets negated simply because they barely capped first in the first place, and they didn't have the luxury of kind of like moving off and up the payload. They could have, you know, there's nothing really stopping them, but I think they were just wanted to make extra sure they actually got the first point. So is 113 valid then? 114 is more valid, but like the 1-1, like the triple flanker and then 3-man on the payloads, it's not like throwing. Is it strong? No, but it's not throwing, and it has its uses, as you're seeing.
Steam. They did have...
It's very hard to counter, and it really comes down to the individual proficiency of your flankers.
the spawn disadvantage, I suppose.
They do, and in that fight goes on forever here.
Yeah, Damon's kill onto Seagull was a body shot.
position. There's still no real big.
So you can see Ado is going to be flanking in through this right passage, and I don't actually know. I don't remember how Fearless plays here, but I assume he's going to. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Is Fearless going to stick with Gigery to try and break Mickey's shield, or is he also going to flank? Now, the only question mark is that there's only really one flank route on this side. Because left is not a flank, it's a solid wall. There's only really one flank route. Now, normally this composition thrives when we have one main passage for the payload, and then one left flank, one right flank. Now, on Streets phase here, because the only way for you to flank on Streets phase, Junker phase, is going right side, Shanghai Dragon's composition is just straight up inherently weaker than it was on the first point. So they barely capped first. We're moving into Streets phase. The composition that we had, which we thought was good for first, is going to be even weaker for second. So the expectation here is that the Dragons are, they're struggling. Their composition isn't as strong because they only have one flank route instead of two, yet they have three flankers. So they are probably going to struggle. And the real question is, how are they going to adapt? Most likely it's going to be Fearless playing with Gigery and Damon playing either behind the Orisa shield or trying to set up crossfires. Because Damon can flank. Damon is the only character that can flank kind of like through the high left window. I guess Ado technically could if he triple blinked over there. But it'd be much better for Ado to take the right flank. And for Damon, if he is going to flank, to grapple, hook up into the left window.
Changes in terms of tanks here. For Shanghai, they're going to roll out the same thing. Dallas is running just a solo tank right now with AKM on Sombra. And I kind of like this from the standpoint that, obviously with Effect you're playing
The only reason AKM is still on Sombra instead of Roadhog is because of his EMP. He'll probably swap off as soon as he uses it.
And Seagull on Junkrat to an extent. You're playing a...
Yeah, you can flank through left. So this is what I'm saying. You can theoretically flank through the left side as Tracer, but Widow can do that. But Widow can't really flank on the right. So Tracer can flank left or right, and Tracer so I'm mirrored. So Tracer can flank left or right. No, I'm mirrored, but I'm looking this direction. So okay, so this is confusing. Basically, Tracer can go into the tunnels and up the stairs, or blink across and flank left. But Widowmaker can grapple into the window on the left, but would be at a severe disadvantage on the right. So that means that Widowmaker will be on the left, even though Tracer could go on the left, and Tracer will go on the right. Words are hard.
Really, pick heavy comp, a lot of front-loaded damage there. With EMP and Riptire being such big ultimate abilities, two game-changing ultimates, you only need, 2 bites to go your
AKM uses Sombra's EMP and will probably swap off.
way. That could be one of them there. Now you have, you use EMP there, but now you're going to at least get another Riptire.
Nicely played from Seagull there. Instead of going for the juicy double support, target up on the high ground with the Riptire.
Yes, but my left, my webcam is mirrored from your perspective, and then the camera was also making it mirrored again so that the left was actually the left. It's just don't ask questions.
He identifies that AKM is being threatened by Fearless and goes in to add the Riptide damage.
Right, when I hold up my left,
to resurrect.
the L is
Sky
backwards.
removed and Effects swinging around like Tarzan. The Widow's Kiss really making that connection.
Well, I guess AKM didn't die, so he has no real point. Need to switch.
He gets the res off on Damon, right? This guy's about to die. It's if I go and try and fly back to him, I'm probably going to...
It is brutal. You can see that now a bit of confidence. Effect is that plucky player. He wants to get in his opponent's head. Play forward like that. Take risks. Definitely hallmarks that individual his time on the Dallas field. That game wants to charge up. Look how quickly that bar is ticking up.
And Fearless playing Roadhog is a huge target. Same with Gigery on D.Va here. The huge targets to be able to build up that ultimate percentage. Same for Seagull.
And you saw that Seagull had his trap at the top of the stairways. Even if it doesn't catch a flanker, that'll be an early warning system that there is a flanker on the left side.
All right, both of those tanks. And it's actually going to be Demon who actually takes a
He spent so long lining up that shot. That was awesome.
cam out on the flank, but it's going to be Effect with another headshot on the sky. No use of the Transcendence here for Shanghai.
Ardo kind of whips the pulse bomb. He sticks it to a barrier Effect. He might want to take this close-up fight. Ardo, you better be careful. Infrasight was active, so Effect can see his assailant coming. Believes that
Now you can see Ado's actually quite deep into enemy lines, and he's only at 25 HP remaining. But you can see how Harry Hook, Unco, and Effect have all kind of drawn their attention onto Ado, at least temporarily. Effect has, of course, now drawn his attention off of Ado and is going to be looking at Damon. Now, both Damon and Effect actually do have Widowmaker sights here. But Ado, this is like when we're talking about the strength of flankers, if you can't score an elimination, as long as you're attacking at a time in which your front line is pressuring the enemy front line, just distracting and staying alive or drawing the attention and the resources of the enemy team in the largest number possible while still surviving provides absolutely fantastic value, because it is temporarily as if those members of the team were dead because they're not pressuring your front line.
Otto was sort of dead to right.
Mickey does die to Fearless, which means that the front line here, Fearless and Gregory, who has switched off of the Orisa and onto the D.Va, this is more of like an anti-tank lineup. D.Va does a very large amount of damage, and her defense matrix can kind of assist with Fearless's aggression. And as like an Orisa shield is usually what's considered a hard counter to the D.Va Roadhog lineup. But if the front line, if Mickey does not have the assistance of these three guys in the back line who are busy fucking around with Ado, and AKM's still on the Sombra, which means that Mickey is solo tanking, Unco and Harry were fucking around with Ado, which means that they weren't healing Mickey, and Mickey had no way of stopping Fearless and Gregory on the front line of just walking through and murdering Mickey. So a little bit of a little lack of discipline from the side of the Dallas Fuel here, allowing so many of them to be distracted by Ado, while Gregory and Fearless basically murder their front line. So, and if Damon lands this shot on Effect, it should start to snowball this point towards his final checkpoint. If Effect lands the shot on Damon, should start to stabilize for the Fuel. But basically, there's a lot riding on who wins the Widow battle between Damon and Effect. And if you've been watching the same game I have, your money's probably on Effect.
There, and he gets smashed by Damon as he peeks out on the left-hand side. His opponent.
But Damon also has sights. Or no, he doesn't. Damon's sights have ended. But Damon lands the headshot at a very critical juncture. So he had sights, but it ended. But lands the shot onto Effect right when it counted. So now, Shanghai Dragon's up 2? Like, Sky also has his Transcendence. There's no real reason why Shanghai Dragon should not be able to cap second point and move into third.
Also has the infra sights and was ready for Effect to poke around
Damon lands another shot.
the corner. Once again, the Dragons have a tough time through most of this stage. And
Like, AKM doesn't have EMP yet, so there's no real way they can recontest this.
now they finally get going a little bit more.
AKM does come out to try and contest the payload. 4 meters left.
AKM won't have an EMP for this fight, so he'll probably just try and stall out with his body and nothing
He gets wrecked.
else. Puts it on the line, but that's all he'll get done.
Seagull is switching off of Junkrat. Hey, it's Dio. 5 months of European streams. I'm sorry, Dio.
The Dragons
Once I go full time, we'll have more North American stuff.
will play the last stage of this map.
So this just off of Damon's double headshots, right? What's the quote? It's any strategy is countered by a Widowmaker clicking heads. So at the end of the day, the opening pick, Ado distracts the backline. Gregory and Fearless walk through and pick Mickey. Damon prevents Dallas Fuel from being able to stabilize by killing Effect and then killing Seagull, and we're moving into third.
So Seagull will switch off of Junkrat, although I believe he did have a rip tire there. He'll go over to D.Va. So that'll be the changes. Now you get 2 tanks here. For the Dallas Fuel, you're going to get a lot of aggression here with AKM kind of filling in what would have been a Tracer role in the past, right? So usually you see Tracer, Widowmaker. Now we're seeing some changes here in Stage 3 with the Sombra Widowmaker.
The Dallas Fuel opt for a little bit more of a durable composition now. Re-inclusion of the D.Va. Maybe not being threatened right now. He was probably expecting to get...
Now, if you're watching this and going, what the hell is the Dallas Fuel doing? They're kind of running hybrid dive now. So they've switched off of static defense, the anti-dive composition, and they've gone towards more of a hybrid dive because this is now new Sombra. Stage 2 was on old Sombra. Stage 3 is on new Sombra and new pre-nerf Sombra. So she still has the ridiculous hack and whatnot. So in this point, AKM is running a Tracer with slightly lower damage and way more utility. So if you're like, what the fuck is this Sombra Widowmaker thing? New patch, remember, AKM is basically playing a different version of Tracer. And then Shanghai Dragons here. Shanghai Dragons actually running hybrid anti-dive. So there's two kind of forms of anti-dive. There's the Roadhog and the Orisa, which is like a static anti-dive. And then there's Roadhog and Diva, which is a more mobile anti-dive. And the reason why you run Roadhog and Diva is because both Roadhog and Diva are very hard counters to Winston. So you can see right here, Mickey jumped in first, and he jumped into what is essentially anti-dive, just mobile variant of anti-dive, and Mickey gets fucking wrecked immediately.
Dived on there, but it looks like the Dallas Fuel kind of ran out of it as they tried to get into the backline. Couldn't follow up and remove the Widowmaker, and now it's effect. He's being pressured down. Gangery has the high ground. They're decent on Seagull. So his micro rockets do connect, and it's just a mini diva on the high ground.
So off of Mickey getting staggered, AKM kills someone? AKM kills Fearless, so Fearless obviously overextended somewhere. Not really surprising, considering that Fearless has been playing solo queue this entire match. But yeah, Mickey jumping in and dying immediately to Shanghai Dragons' anti-dive set up the Shanghai Dragons to get as much distance as they really did on this third point.
Dispatched pretty comfortably, but Gangery has no incentive to really destroy the mini diva.
Yeah, and Fearless gets hacked as he's coming on in, so it was Roadhog when you get hacked, obviously, you know, can't take a breather, can't heal yourself right up, can't use the hook, not much you can do there.
Effect gets Damon.
They'll have to wait for him to get back in.
That's bad.
With
now they have nothing, like, now with
the
the, like, even if they did an EMP there, dropping Damon gives Shanghai Dragons pretty much no way to contest effect. So losing the Widowmaker battle on maps with really nice sightlines like Gibraltar, you know, Junkertown. You know, Junkertown second's not the friendliest for Widowmaker. It's still pretty decent though. Yeah, like when you're running a composition that has no other way to contest a Widowmaker and your Widowmaker loses the Widow duel, well, fuck you, right?
He's going to use his EMP here. Next, quite a few players gets hooked, tries to throw the translocator out, hits off the wall, not able to get out safely.
It's possible that AKM was actually in the fight.
So yeah, Damon gets clicked in the head, AKM EMPs for the follow-up, and Dallas Fuel does manage to like regroup and take control of the payload again.
Too long and his translocator expired when he first set it up. Either way, he had to try and use it again very quickly. The Dragons have been pushed back though, and now we see the Fuel play these chokes very close, make life hard for the Shanghai Dragons to get out onto the Fuel without taking a huge amount of damage, but gets who's sneaking in the back line!
An Unco is the master of just not taking people's shit, right? This man played with Soon. When I'm sure when you're the Zenyatta player who's played with Soon for so long, you're probably so wise to Tracer's bullshit that, yeah, Unco just being here and surprising Ado. Ado did not expect Unco to be here at all. Unco immediately starts taking the duel, drops the Discord on Ado, and Ado had to use quite a few of his blinks to actually arrive on the payload, so he doesn't have the resources he needs to duel a Zen of Unco's caliber.
Ado trying to get there, but Unco now is going to be forced into the 1v1. There is a player up on the high ground. There's
He also gets hacked, which
Seagull drops
sucks.
in. Ado is
Or no, it was Ado that got hooked.
down. AKM made sure of that one as the rest of the Dallas Fuel
So Unco really just making sure that payload doesn't move any farther than it has to.
now converge on the point. The Dragons thought they had the sneaky play, but the Fuel were attentive. Self-destruct thrown in to get a find. Geggery doesn't find anything with that one, but at least gets the mech back. The hack now, she is knocked out. There'll be Seagull.
Valiant effort, but
There,
there's
and it's
only
gonna be
so much a solo diva can do.
And the Dallas Fuel identified that they were at risk of being backcapped and respond accordingly, and didn't. Fortunately for them, they didn't leave Unco to do it. Now,
Why
for
are
a player
Dragons
to
not
play
running a main
on the same
tank?
team,
Because of that version of that
we've seen this
composition
a
is
lot.
mobile
Yeah,
anti-dive.
Fuel.
It's a legitimate strategy. That composition is hard countered by Orisa, but there were so many different like slow shifts in composition throughout the map. Yeah, Diva and Roadhog is fine, especially if the opponent is running dive. If the opponent is running any sort of shield at all, Reinhardt or Orisa, then you need to switch off Diva and Roadhog. But if they don't have a shield, Orisa Roadhog's fine. Not a Roadhog Diva is fine as long as the opponent doesn't have a hard shield.
Or getting done to the Fuel.
So Unco is actually, you know, he's fighting Otto there towards the
Would
end.
you say Unco is
Tracer
one of the
on
best Zens of the game?
What
I don't know. When you've got like people like Badosin and Jonak in the game, no, Unco's not in contention for like. He's not top 3. He's probably like 4th or 5th best Zen in the league, yes.
Happens, AKM uses the translocator, gets on back, hacks auto so he can't blink out.
Is Geguri known more for her Zarya? Absolutely. No, I've watched this one. I won't have watched the Gladiators game, but I have watched this map, and I've watched the Valiant and the Soul Dynasty map, which we're going to look at next.
Out towards the Shanghai Transcendence, and he's just stuck there. He can't recall, can't use any of his blinks. And
I always struggle as a main tank versus Hog Diva. Any suggestions on how to play? Don't engage them in a tank fight. Those two are tank killers. Yeah, trust, because they have no shield. The weakness, if you're playing main tank against that, if you're playing Winston against that, especially in solo queue, good luck. But if you're playing in like a coordinated team environment, honestly, just sit farther back, and they don't have any way to actually protect themselves. So just sit farther at range and let your DPS farm them. It's the best way to counter the Orisa and the Roadhog. Is Unko better than Custa? I think so.
2-on-1, right? Sombra,
in my opinion, yeah.
Zenyatta against the Tracer, you're in a great position there for Dallas.
Despite their struggles early on, the first and second stages of this map at least, the Shanghai Dragons did manage to collect themselves to win those
Yes, Rouge Hang was the, yeah.
last fights. A lot of Orisa.
I'm only reviewing one match between... So, we're trying a new format today. Instead of doing the usual, which is review all 4 matches from a singular series, we're going to try doing a shorter stream where I only review one map, but from one map of each of the 3 series, so we get to see more teams. I thought that'd be a little bit of a more fresh and interesting stream for everyone. And let me know if you like it or if you don't like it.
With trajectory over stage 3.
Still a ton of season left. 20 games.
Yeah, halfway.
Yeah, just only halfway through. I mean, you still have a lot of games to improve.
Oh yeah, Geguri's cam has always been a little bit difficult to watch.
A lot of games to, potentially put yourself back in the, overall
Hey, Hops.
Watch League.
So, by the way, if you guys have been watching, because we do have a YouTube, and if you hit exclamation mark YouTube, you'll be finding edited VODs of pretty much everything I do on the channel here. And if you're like, hey, man, I can't always watch live because Jayne's a European, but I like watching, the VODs, or if you like having the VODs cut up and put onto YouTube, if you guys could all help me give a huge thanks to Hops, who has taken on the basically Herculean task of editing all my shit and putting it on YouTube. I would really truly appreciate it, because Hops is basically the only reason that the YouTube channel pretty much exists right now. So if you could just help me out and thank Mr. Hops for his assistance with the YouTube channel, I would really truly appreciate it.
Playoff hunt, or even like the stage playoffs, right? Still a ton for these teams to play for, even if you're kind of like down in the overall stand.
And the Pacific Division is wide open as well for playoff contention.
When do you not need an off tank or main tank? You normally need one or the other. You almost never need 2 main tanks, but having 2 off tanks is situational.
So interestingly,
was this format a result of you not wanting to review all of Fuel vs Shanghai Dragons? Yes. Yes. This new format came from me actually watching all 4 games of the Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons and be like, wow, this match is actually not going to be that good to review. So yeah, yes, this new experimental format absolutely 100% came from me not actually wanting to review the Shanghai Dragons for 4 games straight.
Enough, it is going to be no main tank even. It's going to be the Diva and the Roadhog.
So it looks like.
So, if you guys were in the Overwatch League viewing party, which, by the way, so much fun. If you watch the Overwatch League alone, man, you need to be on the Discord, because the conversations during the Overwatch League games are so fucking funny. But I had been absolutely screaming pretty much all Junkertown because I wanted to see Seagull play Hanzo. So AKM played Hanzo instead of Seagull, but I love double sniper composition on Junkertown. It's just so much fun. But so yeah, here Dallas Fuel's running solo healer composition. And they're running the same sort of composition that the Shanghai Dragons ran, but we're going to have to see what exactly they make of it. So they are running triple DPS, but really Harry Hook's basically a 4th DPS. So Dallas Fuel is just also playing pit comp, where they're wanting to get kills. Like, effect hitting a headshot does not involve anybody else on the team. AKM hitting a headshot or a scatter does not involve anyone else on the team. Harry Hook landing a hook and getting a kill by himself does not involve anyone on the team. So this sort of playstyle where 3 individuals can get eliminations solo is usually what defines a pick composition. The only really question here, because Mickey's going to be moving the payload, Unko is going to be healing Mickey on the payload, and then Seagull is probably going to be playing with Mickey for 2 purposes, just to increase the front line's damage boost, much in the same way a Bastion would be, except a lot less vulnerable than an actual Bastion, as well as his concussion mine does give him a little bit of peel for Unko, although not much. So, not much. But the only real question here is Harry Hook going to play with Mickey, or is he also going to play 1-1-1-3? So is he going to play triple flanker and then kind of Mickey, Seagull, and Unko? Or is the Dallas Fuel going to run 1-1-4? We'll have to see. But, because I honestly don't remember. I don't remember what Harry Hook did on this map here. And then Shanghai Dragons on the defense, they actually stayed with their anti-dive composition, which is ass against, especially what the Dallas Fuel is running, is that Fearless and Geggery, these 2 guys really like killing tanks. They can't, like, Geggery can't really dive because she's going to be diving alone. And we just mentioned it at the 3rd point, but Fearless and Geggery are more or less hard countered by an Orisa shield, which Dallas Fuel does have. So this is kind of like a mobile variant of anti-dive, which of course the easy way to hard counter that is just get a fucking Orisa shield. However, right? One of the weaknesses is of course that Unko is solo healing, and we do have a Tracer. So if Tracer just straight up murders Unko, that could open things up. But otherwise, the Shanghai Dragons composition is getting pretty hard countered by Dallas Fuel, especially with Damon on the Widowmaker. Damon was already losing the majority of the duels to effect, and now we've introduced a second sniper into the equation who can also just absolutely shit on tanks who aren't using shields. This should go very poorly for the Shanghai Dragons very quickly. So this first point should not last for long.
For Dallas, this is a really different comp. We never even
think about Hagafin? It's pretty good.
Stage 1. It's going to be
There's that scatter. Effect doing effect things.
Effect takes out Altering and Damon at the beginning. Harry will play Roadhog. And then you'll have Mickey play Orisa. So you're going to run the double snipers plus the Junkertown. You're going to have Unko as a solo healing Mercy here to be able to charge up that Valkyrie rather quickly.
See a hell of a lot of damage on the side of the Dallas Fuel, I'm not going to lie.
So you can see Effect and AKM both moving up, trying to get these angles and look for picks, trying to prevent the regroup and the recontest.
Perhaps.
They don't see... oh, never mind.
Really bluff and blunder, but at the moment it looks like they have potential to rip the Dragons to shreds. So Damon switches over.
I'm sorry. Look at my mouse out of the way.
To the, well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. He's not allowed to play Overwatch.
We don't actually like jump in voice comms for the viewing parties, but there's a lot of people who make like infographics and just chat. It's like Twitch chat, but actually usable, and you discuss like strengths of play. It's like actually having 900 IQ plat chat. It's like diamond chat instead of plat chat. That should be our selling point.
At the moment, apparently, the Sombra taken out as he tries to leap into the frame.
I mean, now he tries to come back. Well, we didn't catch it there for a split second, but AKM with the Sonic Arrow against the Sombra can gain a ton of.
And Shanghai Dragons is running Damon on the Sombra now instead of the Widowmaker, which is a good choice. Because if he did stay on the Widowmaker, he was just constantly going to get wrecked by Effect and AKM. So putting double flanker with the Shanghai Dragons into their, like, this is also kind of really weird because you're still playing that the Roadhog and the Diva, so you're kind of playing like an anti-dive tank lineup with double flankers. So like, yeah, it's kind of okay, but you're going to be working in 2 different units because the flankers are going to go after the exposed targets like AKM and Effect. So you'll probably see, like, if Ado or Damon get a kill, they will probably have been working together. Whereas Geggery and Fearless are going to have kind of like the 2-part job of keeping Sky and Altering alive while trying to burn down Mickey. But doing that through a shield while supported is going to be a pretty tall order. So Shanghai Dragons are going to basically have to operate in 2 different like mini cells. The double flankers, which are going to take out the snipers, and then the 4-man tank lineup who are going to try and burn Mickey. because they do only have single healer. And Unco is going to be drawn pretty thin here.
You're gaining a ton of information with this comp here for Dallas.
Effect can also see,
Yeah.
you know, someone while she's invisible without having to use Infrasight to do that. That's pretty nasty. Effect finds two there. They've been down here. It looks like Fearless is finally here to collect his pound of flesh. Not like he doesn't have enough already on that Roadhog. The hook connects. He will find it, but
So yeah, like 5 minutes moving into second. Composition still very in favor of the Dallas Fuel. Not looking good for Shanghai.
yeah. Should probably tell him that the payload is going to be on the move in the second phase now. And a Roadhog caught in an open field is a very, very sad piggy.
Yeah, he's going to get taken out there. No surprise. He's working all the way back. Listen to this. So remember when we talked about how good Otto was there on Bonnie?
Again, Siegel going to be moving up to try and prevent the regroup.
Like all of his eliminations, pretty much finishing them with final blows. Effect is 25 elims, 21 final blows on the Widowmaker. Right?
AKM moving up, trying to get that advanced recon on where the Shanghai Dragons are going to be coming from.
Barely, 51%.
And Ultimates, Harry Hook has his coming up, Unco has Valkyrie, Siegel has Riptire, Mickey's coming up on Supercharger. The Dragons, however, are also coming up on both of their support ultimates and have a whole hog of their own, but even ultimate advantage is in favor of Dallas Fuel here.
Scoped accuracy, 28% crit accuracy. So, like, that is just headshot after headshot there.
And look, without trying to throw shade, Ardo has struggled this map with one final blow. Effect has 20 additional final blows.
I mean, to be fair,
That's a pretty crazy strat. Like, Addo is actually nuts. So if we're looking at this game alone, Addo's only gotten one final blow, and Effect has 21 final blows. And Ado in the other 3 maps of the series that we aren't watching has been absolutely nuts. Like, seeing his performance, he basically hard carried Volskaya. Shanghai lost Volskaya, but Ado's Dragon Blades on Volskaya were actually crazy. If you want to watch some just really sick Genji play, go watch Ado just rock Volskaya. Holy smokes, that was just a pleasure to watch. So
Otto has not really been playing the Tracer throughout this series.
Sky was on Miraculous Youngsters. He's Chinese.
Kind of thrown into it. We've
So Sky with the flanking, just the right-click kill onto Effect.
seen Otto play very...
That's going to open things up. Fearless gets Harry Hook.
Seagull here, a couple of remote mines being thrown into the mix. So the high ground's still controlled by the Dallas Fuel. You can see they're pretty reluctant to give it up here as they want to try and come forward.
So yeah, they the right-click reduced Effect, and then Unco was up on the high ground, kind of damage boosting Seagull, and I forget the other person who was up there. But Mickey and Harry Hook didn't really have as much help on the payload there. And the Shanghai Dragons went in pretty aggressively, knowing that the tanks with only a single healer don't have the same support, and especially with Orisa having that shield, if they don't commit to killing one of those tanks, then they're going to lose the fight. So Shanghai played that really well, but also really kind of got lucky off of Sky's right-click.
It's rare, in fact, that you can see attacking teams control that area, but they are sort of playing a fighting retreat. Riptire from Seagull.
I don't like the timing of the Riptire. Even if it gets a couple kills, they're not going to be able to follow up on it because AKM is dead and Mickey needs to be healed back up. And with solo healer, or never mind, Unco. So, never mind. Unco has switched off of Mercy and onto Zenyatta. That is a very dead giveaway that they're switching compositions. So Seagull is ulting here to swap. He's got to be. It's the only thing that makes sense.
Seagull probably just to cover his team's retreat to make sure.
Breaks mech, forces out of, if you were going to get value out of Tire, that was the way to get value. Force Geguri to use self-destruct. So, yeah, he's going to swap now.
When I get stuck out,
Harry Hook goes Mercy off of Roadhog.
Task Force of self-destruct here in a resuit.
And I imagine you see the Riptire used there. Maybe they want to make a comp.
Ado kills Effect. What is Seagull going to respond as? Diva? Seagull's going to respond as Diva. Mickey pops Supercharger. They're all just fucking wasting their ults, which there's no real need. Just swap, man.
Change, you see him go over to Diva.
And even AKM here sits in spawn and launches Dragon at the payload. And I don't know why he does this. He's getting a supercharged Dragon, right? And the reason that the Dragon Dallas Fuel is wasting so much time in spawn is because this Dragon right now is doing... He's not getting damage boosted. I don't know why Mercy isn't damage boosting him, because that would make this Dragon do 360 damage per second. But it's not like this Dragon is going to surprise anyone. So Dallas Fuel just wastes so much time here fucking around their ultimates while they're swapping. It's so dumb. Because you can't launch Dragon and swap. You have to be on Hanzo, because if you swap off Hanzo, the Dragon immediately disappears. So this is pretty dumb.
maybe stop using the triple DPS. It's AKM. They use his Hanzo ultimate there. There's the Dragon Strike.
Yeah.
It doesn't look to be connecting with anything. That's going to be just a change. They're going to change right away.
Yeah, Mercy Beam plus Totem would be extra 80%, which would make it 160 extra damage on top of a base 200, would make it 360. Your sub probably did go through, but I usually only check subs after maps. I don't thank subs or donators during reviews, just so it makes the review a little bit of higher quality. I talk during or like between maps.
If you see the ultimates just come out there, just trying to make something happen. You know, with Seagulls, at least you did force that self.
Okay, so, and the big thing about Dallas Fuel switching up a composition like this is whenever you hard switch a composition and you don't go through a transitional composition. So a transitional composition would be the classic transitional composition. Let's just explain transitional compositions to you guys. Where's my pen? Okay, so a transitional composition would be if we had a tracer, and then we had, you know, let's just say like we had Widowmaker, and then we had normal dive, and then we had Mercy. Okay, so if a team wants to switch between hybrid dive, so the rest of this dive here would probably be like, let's say, Lucio, Winston, Diva, Tracer. If you want to switch from this hybrid dive onto full dive, for example, then your Widowmaker would swap onto Genji. But if your Mercy had or was close to Valk, you would stay on Mercy for the next fight and then use Valk very early so that in the fight after that, you put your Mercy onto Lucio. And at that point, you have Genji. So the idea is that a transitional comp is where you switch heroes after they've used their ultimates to slowly arrive at your new composition instead of hard switching like this. And the reason why hard switching is so bad is because Dallas Fuel has 4, 4, 5, 8, 21, and 17. Their highest ult charge is Unco at 21%. They are now so far behind on ult economy. It's unbelievable. Fearless has ult, Damon has ult, Sky has ult. And they can use these ults to win fights, giving like Altering, Gigery, and Ado their ultimates before Dallas Fuel gets their ultimates. So this is giving like 2 free fights. This act of hard switching compositions is pretty much 2 free fights for the Shanghai Dragons. Whereas if Dallas Fuel had gone through a more transitional comp, maybe as they're switching, the reason why a transitional comp, even though Genji Mercy makes no sense because that's in the middle of a transition, like compositionally that's weak. But the reason why you do a transitional composition and you slowly swap to your new comp is that doing so, you can use ultimates here and maintain ult economy while swapping compositions. But if you don't do this, you just reset the board in terms of ultimates. So, like Dallas Fuel, just off of their ultimate status, is probably going to lose the next 2 fights. Whereas if they had like done a transitional comp, instead of fucking around in spawn and wasting so much time, and then just hard swapping comps, probably could have maintained at least more ult economy.
Sombra versus Sombra now, it doesn't look so much like who can control the health packs. It looks like who can get the EMP and use it first. Damien is hoping to be the first here. I mean, not much competition. AKM's a long way away from his EMP, but
Is there going to be any follow-up on that EMP, though? Like, Gigery and Fearless don't... Like, Gigery could dive in, but then you'd be diving in alone, and they're all in a tiny-ass tunnel. And I'm not sure if Ado's there, like... So, I'm just not sure if there's follow-up on that EMP. Ado does get Unco, who is at 50 HP, and it's good they at least got Unco, because that is also going to severely delay the amount of time that it's going to take Dallas Fuel to get their Transcendence.
Actually get an immediate assassination. Ado, though, astutely finds that...
So, I guess it was enough. Like, killing Unco is like, that will be a reset, but the problem about EMP and only getting Unco is that you want to get, like, yes, killing Unco will win the team fight, but the problem with this is that you don't want to only win the team fight and then let them regroup. You want to kill all of them so that the remaining 5 members of their team provide ultimate charge to your allies, and that's how you really, truly maintain ult economy. Sky drops to effect, though, so now we're even, and Harry Hook is going to get the res. Or is he? Fearless fucking hooks a wall. Okay, Fearless.
1 for 1 though. Sky's also down.
And then whole hogs into like 5 people. He's gonna get killed here. There's no way he survives this.
Brought back to life. This could be nuts though. Everyone in the meat grinder.
Hello, audio?
You'll both get mashed by the whole hog.
I thought, was that not D.Va behind him? Did I see the wrong D.Va?
It's a 1 for 1 though. Sky's also down. Uncle's
Oh, I thought Seagull had way more defense matrix there.
brought back to life. This could be
But he
nuts,
ran
though.
out of
Everyone in
defense
the meat
matrix.
grinder.
That's rough. Because he went, yeah, that's actually a problem with the VOD itself. Because EMP had worn off on this point, and I thought that Seagull had more defense matrix. Because if Seagull had like 1 second of defense matrix left, that would have been enough for the entire team to just turn and burn Fearless down. Seagull, what would have Seagull used his defense matrix on? Because Unco had died quite significantly before that. Why did Seagull not have defense
Sombra now,
matrix?
it doesn't look so much like who can control the health packs. It looks like who can get the EMP and use it first. Damien is hoping to be the first here. I mean,
So Seagull's using defense matrix here.
competition
This is
AK
pretty
is a long way
early.
away from his
EMP's
but
out.
doesn't actually get an
And we can tell when EMP wears off because Damon starts getting ult
immediate
charge.
assassination. Ado, though, astutely finds that unshielded.
So, okay. So Seagull was EMP'd, which means like that will his actually that's a good question. Chat, do you know if a D.Va runs out of defense matrix and then gets EMP'd, does defense matrix regenerate while you're hacked? I don't actually know. I assume it does, but I could be wrong. Does defense matrix regenerate while you're hacked or EMP'd? I know, like you obviously can't activate it, but does defense matrix regen while you're EMP'd or hacked? We'll have to test that. I don't know.
Ado removes it from the fight.
Okay, so oh, Seagull's defense matrix can Geggery. So there's a lot of defense matrix wasted
one for one.
here. Yeah, so see in my mind, Seagull should have 2 full seconds of defense matrix here. This is why I thought Fearless should have died. Because Fearless is Fearless, and he's going in 1v a lot,
Sky's also down. Uncle's
and there's no defense matrix left.
brought back to life. This could be nuts though. Everyone in the meat grinder. You'll both get mashed by the whole hog.
We'll have to test that D.Va EMP thing.
And that's Damien to find Mickey. This is where the Dragons shut it down.
Do have a little bit of an
I definitely think Fearless should have been punished there.
ultimate advantage in that fight, but they win it nonetheless. As now they'll have Transcendence for the next fight. Gigery already up to another self-destruct here. So, Otto does have a pulse bomb too. Let's see what Dallas is like.
Oh, did Fearless use ult because he saw Matrix was out? No, it was very clear that that was his intention from the get-go. You do not walk into a tiny corridor against that many people without planning to use whole hog. No, Seagull wasn't turned around. What? His back was turned, but he had originally been matrixing, and even then, you should have faster reaction time than that. Nah.
Obviously, that
Seagull was
first
out of
fight is
defense
Jayne,
matrix for
right?
some
It's gonna
reason
raise
there.
effect here.
Ado
And I don't know
knows
why.
this, though. Can't stop it. Bit risky, I guess, for the Trace to drop down, especially with that recall. Immediate D-suit on Seagull.
Yeah, they do get a hook though, bringing Seagull up to the high ground. They do get D-Mech right away. So obviously good there for the Shanghai Dragons. Does this pulse bomb make a difference? Oh,
Do I currently coach any teams? Yes, I am currently coaching for Tainted Minds, a Australian contenders team, and I just got offered a trial for a new contenders team. No, I can't tell you which one it is, but I got offered a trial, so that's going to be fun.
Otto's not going to use it. He's going to recall back to the rest of his teammates. It's going to go right onto Mickey.
Sky went for that Transcendence there in this fight, and it plays off nicely. As soon as he pops out, he's got enough to deal with Mickey. And then Dana's fuel have been slowed up a little bit here. Effect with that Orb of Harmony.
It's not XL2. It's public that I applied to XL2, so I wouldn't bait like it's not a trial for XL2. I haven't heard back from XL2.
Not going to be persisting for much longer, and he's not going to be able to get away with his life. Gigery, she ensures that. 2 minutes and 11 seconds left in the round. So there's an EMP coming back into the next fight for the fuel. Transcendence.
As much as I would love it to be
This next
XL2,
fight
it's
for
not.
Dog.
What the heck? What the heck? That's not even an error. Harry Hook is... What? How? How does this even happen? Like, if Harry Hook wasn't clipping into this, I guess I could understand, but how is, like, what is going on? How does this even happen? That's funny.
The first real good one with this composition, right? They had to make so many changes. 4 of their.
Okay, let's look at this. So remember that Dallas Fuel went into this stage, this Streets phase, with 5 minutes. They lost a fight. They reset their ult economy. But let's look at it now. Dallas Fuel, they've got 3 ults coming on 6. Okay, Shanghai Dragons have 2 ults coming on 3. Ult economy, very heavily in favor of the Dallas Fuel. And what composition did the Dallas Fuel switch on to? Tracer, Sombra, Dive, which in the new meta is extremely strong. Higher damage and higher utility than the Genji Tracer Dive. And Shanghai Dragons, what are they still running? They're also running Tracer Sombra, but they're running anti-dive. So compositionally, Shanghai Dragons has the advantage. So what this is going to come down to is how well Mickey can play and how well Seagull can support Mickey. Because Shanghai Dragons have the very strong advantage in their tank lineup here. So the thing to watch is going to be how Mickey engages on the Shanghai Dragons.
Had to switch up here, so now you get a really good look at it. We'll see what they decide to do with these ultimates. It's going to be a big EMP that comes out from AKM.
Oh, that's so brutal there.
They trade 1 for 1, though. That's just straight up in the VOD itself. Come on.
Out against effect. Despite that, there might be the saving grace here as Fearless is brought back to life.
Trades going both ways. We have 3 ults have come out from the side of the Dallas Fuel. 2 ults have come out from the side of the Dragons here. And anytime, like, if you're drop those Jayne ults in chat, but anytime you see an ult fiesta like this, it's so hard to kind of predict who's going to win, and it's come down to the individual mechanics and ultimate usage about which team comes out on top. Mickey, however, is still alive and does still have his primal.
Is effect. Gregory down was D-Student, and then it was AKM just to blink away with that Uzi. 1 minute 35 here on the clock, and that's something the Dallas Fuel need to be aware of here. They can't be affording to waste any time. AKM
Ultimate online.
From above, Harry Hook in effect now is looking for
Seagull and Mickey both use their ultimates.
Towards his right, but wants to go.
Oh my goodness, we've got to count the ultimates here. This is a pretty ridiculous fight. Okay, let's watch. Let's watch and have some fun.
Switch up here, so now you get a really good look at see what they decide to do with these.
Gonna lead off with the EMP.
EMP that comes out from AKM.
Oh, that's so
Effect gets traded, and then Transcendence comes out from the side of Unko. That's 2.
Despite that, there might be the saving grace here as Fearless
Altering uses Valkyrie. Gregory goes for ultimate. Damon uses EMP. Harry Hook uses Valkyrie. And the fight still isn't resolved.
To waste any time.
We're at 6.
AKM lucky to benefit from the healing from above.
Seagull Remix. Mickey uses Primal. Sky uses Transcendence.
Down to AKM. Transcendence here for Sky, but it's less than optimal with the amount of players that are benefiting from the healing.
Yeah, it looked like Sky was going to use that Transcendence to get Altering back in. And
Gregory bombs.
Altering gets hacked as he's coming back on into the
AKM dies to the bomb with EMP. We could have hit the double-digit ultimate fight.
Really paying off.
Come on, Seagull, use your bomb. We need a 10th.
It's going to be AKM here with another EMP. It's done a ton of damage, but it's going to be Unko falling early.
I think we're only going to hit 9.
The Dragons actually break back onto this point. There might be an opportunity for them to save this fight. Fearless, beautiful hook on towards effective.
Okay, let's just go back a couple of seconds and pause and kind of like.
Done a ton of damage.
So after you die, nice. Let's see who's dead. So we've lost AKM and Unko from the side of the Dallas Fuel. So we have Seagull, Mickey, Effect, and Harry Hook alive, which in terms of like effectiveness is still pretty decent. You're not going to have focus fire, and you're not going to be able to focus down those discords. But in terms of like things that I would like to have alive, both tanks, including my Diva with bomb, is actually pretty diva. Effect bombed? Oh, did Effect bomb? I missed that one then. That makes 10. But yeah, and then so the Shanghai Dragons definitely have numbers and spawn advantage. So once all the ultimates kind of run out and things just get into these really chaotic, devolved, and messy team fights, it's just going to come down to mechanics and who can get more value. And spawn advantage is going to give the Shanghai Dragons a significant amount of more. Did I count Geggery twice? 9. Damn.
Yonko falling early.
Wow, it didn't take long. The Dragons actually break back onto this point. There might be an opportunity for them to save this fight. Fearless, beautiful hook on towards Affected. It might be the Dallas Fuel having to pull out now. They were so close, about 4 meters away, but the fight is pretty much over. I love that. The Dragons see an opening. Use these insta-pick abilities like Fearless's hook.
Now, you're probably sitting there thinking right now, this is the shittiest analysis I have ever watched. Like, we just hit 630 viewers. I'm sure somebody in chat is like, this is the absolute shittiest analysis I've ever watched. The dude's just sitting there counting ultimates. He even counted Geggery's twice. What fucking crack shit is this? Like, but what I wanted to really illustrate here is the fact that Dallas Fuel went into this with 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay? They had 5 minutes and 15 seconds to cap Street Phase. They fucked up their first attack, and then they decided at about 3.5 minutes or so to hard reset their composition, and it just brought their ult economy back to 0. They lost the next couple of team fights because they didn't have ultimate economy, and they were running, not like the worst composition ever, but Shanghai Dragons were running anti-dive, and Dallas Fuel decided to run dive into it. So Shanghai Dragons had the advantage during long, drawn-out, sustained team fights. And if the tanks fought each other, Shanghai Dragons were, of course, favored to win. So then we get down to the point where we're just about a minute left. And the Dallas Fuel have finally gotten to the point where they can use their ultimates. They had 3 coming on 6 going into this fight. 3 coming on 6. And the Shanghai Dragons had 2, and they were coming up on 4 or so. And so Dallas Fuel finally had ultimate advantage, but their ultimates, after having kind of saved up so many of them, didn't get enough value to actually close everything out. As the fight kind of went on, Shanghai Dragons, even though they were slightly behind in terms of the ult economy, the long, prolonged team fight and the sustain from Altering's Valkyrie kept them alive long enough to ult and make the fight last even longer. And this last fight, when did it start? When did this last fight start? When did this last fight start?
With this composition, right? They had to make so many changes. 4 of their players had to switch up here. So now you get a really good look at it. We'll see what they decide to do with these.
1 minute and 50 seconds is when this fight started. And when did it end?
To pick abilities like Fearless's hook to win the fight, and now does the
35 seconds. So this was like an 80-second fight. This was like an 80-second fight. And Dallas Fuel lost it because the fight lasted so long. Ultimates came online for the Shanghai Dragons. Their tank lineup just got more value in the straight-up brawl, and the Shanghai Dragons had spawn advantage. Dallas Fuel's inability to have just a clean fight or actually kill things when they're using Q just allowed the Shanghai Dragons to very messily just gain more value over time. And it took 80 seconds of outvaluing the damage or the Dallas Fuel for them to actually win that fight. So Shanghai wins, but to no merit of their own.
35 seconds left for Dallas to get to that second checkpoint.
Fearless's Roadhog has been very good for Shanghai. 29 elims.
Is there ever a good time to hard reset your comp and ruin ult economy? The only time I would ever... No. Actually, no. I was going to say that the only time you would do it is after you've used ults and the opponent beat... If both teams go into a fight, your team had ultimates and the other team either did not have ultimates or did not use those. So if you used ultimates and lost the fight, that dictates a compositional swap. But that would not even be a hard reset of ultimates because you're switching because you used your ultimates and lost, so you wouldn't have them and it wouldn't be resetting your ult economy. So no, I don't think there's ever any merit to hard resetting your ult economy. I don't think there's ever any merit for that. So the DPS was at fault? No, technically it was the composition at fault, right? Because Dallas Fuel is running Winston and D.Va, and Shanghai Dragons are running Roadhog and D.Va. So in the very prolonged fight, Shanghai Dragons will just get more value out of their tank lineup and put more pressure on Dallas Fuel's tank lineup because everything else is even. The Roadhog instead of the Diva or Mickey's advantage is mobility and a strong, like, requires more coordination because they have the ability to focus targets, whereas the Shanghai Dragons, Fearless doesn't have the ability to focus the same targets as Ado and Damon if they're in the back line. So Dallas Fuel's win condition is focus targets down quickly, and Shanghai Dragons' win condition was basically just get more value. Dallas Fuel did not satisfy their win condition, and that was enough for the Shanghai Dragons to prevail. Issue with the Fuel calling targets, either that or the issue with them actually finishing the targets that were called. But more than likely, this entire Streets phase composition, or this entire Streets phase push, was likely due to shot calling, communication, some sort of fuck up, complacency from having won the first 3 maps. I don't know what it was, but yeah, there's like Dallas Fuel, if they had shot calling, if they had target calling, if they had focus fire with discords, probably could have gone a lot better.
23 final blows, 50% hook accuracy. Like, so you mentioned, you know, able to get those first picks off with a hook.
That's actually massive. That's, especially compared to the rest of his team, that's just huge. Big standout performance from Fearless. That's why they put him on.
And now Shanghai Dragons have 4 ultimates, including EMP, and Unko doesn't have trance. You're fucked, right? You fucked a 5-minute and 15-second Streets phase on Junkertown. Feel bad about yourself.
On that flex tank.
He spotted Unko down there. He's going to try and go down.
Backhand, backcapping. Where are the Dragons? They're going to jump in now as well, but we'll have that.
Altering, really good. Getting that Valkyrie off before he gets EMP'd. Keeps Sky alive. Yeah, altering knowing that was coming. You know, Shanghai Dragons, whether it was ult tracking or altering, just having that sixth sense, pops Valkyrie, gets out of the area of effect of EMP to make sure that they have sustained through EMP. Love it.
Proper fight, I'm not sure. Sky.
Thoughts as Hog Diva as a tank duo? It's good, but it's hard countered by a shield like Orisa or Reinhardt.
Looks like he did get hacked. Yeah, Mickey's now going to try and jump on him. Sky, if he survives, will have a Transcendence to use for this fight to save it for the Shanghai Dragons. Whole hog by Fearless, being kept alive by altering by the grace of the mercy. You know AKM's going to get hooked in, taken down. Unko the next target. You better believe he's found it. Right click will do the job. The scrap can't find this mark. And the Dragons get themselves at least a map in this series. Not going home empty-handed, but they will be waiting a bit longer for that first victory in the Overwatch League.
There you go.
They played that last fight really well. You saw Fearless use that whole hog there towards the end. He's great in this final map here for Shanghai, and I think if you're a Shanghai Dragon...
Okay. Check. Perfect. So let's talk about that match. Let's talk about that map in particular, and just the entire Dallas Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons matchup. Now, coming into this, all of the casters and everybody who was, you know, any Reddit commenters or anything like that, they really, really wanted Shanghai Dragons to win this match. And by the grace of some benevolent overlord, they did manage to actually secure a map from the Dallas Fuel. However, you saw the same map I did. It was not based on very good team coordination. They didn't have the best strategies. And it was more off of the Dallas Fuel basically just shooting themselves in the fucking foot. So that was, unfortunately, probably the Shanghai Dragons' best chance at winning a series. It was. And even Dallas Fuel, like the reason it was such a good opportunity for the Shanghai Dragons, and the reason why so many people thought that the Shanghai Dragons, if they were going to win a series, it was going to be this one, was Rascal's in Korea. They don't have a Genji player, which means that their DPS lineup is basically locked to AKM effect. On top of that, OGE still suspended. They don't have a main tank specialist, so they're still playing Mickey and Seagull as like the primary main tank and off tank, respectively, when they're playing Dive. And on top of that, they just traded a person who is acting primarily as their shot caller or their captain to the Los Angeles Valiant and gained Unko, a mechanically more talented player, but much less of a shot caller than Custa. So, and Dallas Fuel has never had an issue with very individually skilled players. You know, they have Seagull, they have Effect, they have AKM, they had Chips. Chips was falling off a little bit, but Dallas has never had a problem with individually skilled players. So, like the fact that they were losing Rascal, their good Genji player, and that Custa, who was kind of like holding the ship together until OGE arrived, had been traded away, and OGE hadn't arrived yet, was that Dallas Fuel, they were killable. You could have beaten them. But the Shanghai Dragons, with their new pickups, Gregory and Fearless honestly played pretty well. Fearless is playing more solo queue and not really a team-based a game. We especially on the attack, we saw Fearless basically constantly flanking and doing this ridiculous stuff, and it works out for him. But Effect on Tracer and the other maps that we didn't watch basically free farmed Sky, which is a little bit surprising because Sky was the main support player for Miraculous Youngsters, and a guy who is pretty hyped to be, a breath of fresh air into the Shanghai Dragons, but he really underperformed, and he spent probably more time playing Walking Simulator than actually contributing in fights, especially on maps such as Ilios. If you want to watch something, it's like a Zen's worst nightmare, watch Sky try to stay alive on Ilios. It was not a fun time. And then we have Damon, a very, again, hyped individual coming up from NRG Esports, who had an absolutely terrible debut. There's no other way to put about it. Effect just farmed him on Widow. The only time that Shanghai Dragons actually capped first point was actually after Damon landed a couple shots, but Damon consistently underperformed for what is to be expected of a player in the Overwatch League. So Damon and Sky had absolutely terrible matches, and unfortunately the Shanghai Dragons were missing Dia, who is in China still. So it was their best bet to win a match. And with Dallas Fuel soon to be improving, and improving what I hope to be a dramatic improvement, there's no other teams that are even close to the level of the Shanghai Dragons are at, and where they have the hope of taking a series. I don't think in Stage 3 we'll see Shanghai take a series. But that's my analysis of that matchup. Let's go back.